Welcome to 24 Hour Sports. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. In today's video, this is a bit different. I have my top 3 scenarios for the Philadelphia Eagles in the 2023 NFL Draft. This is not meant to be perfect, but what it's meant to do is get some stimulation going in the comments. Let me know what you think and what out of these 3 mock drafts would you end up taking? What would you pick? We're going to talk about some scenarios, but I want to get straight into it. Here we have the first draft, and I think it's a consensus. You have to take a cornerback with this first pick. News just came out. Darius Slay, he's open to go look for a trade. James Bradbury. And it's interesting because if you work out a trade with Slay, does that mean we're bringing Bradbury back in the door? But it doesn't even matter. I think corner has to be this first pick in play. And now this is where we start to get into some interesting things. Number 30, what did I do? And as you can see right here, I'm going to also show you because I want you to see what's on the board. Like I said, sometimes we have to pivot, and right here I had to pivot. This was kind of a tough one for me, and I see Anton Harrison, DeJuan Jones. Let me tell you one thing about offensive linemen. I'm not big on stashing the offensive linemen, especially where we're at right now. Miles Sanders might be out the door. Quez Watkins may be on the move if we trade him. There's a lot of questions and a lot of holes on this team. So what I did, I needed to take somebody that's going to make an impact. Bijan Robinson was gone. We don't have the draft capital to try to trade up and get Bijan Robinson. Unless Howie Roseman goes crazy and takes him at 10 over a corner, you're not getting Bijan Robinson. That's the truth of it. Jalen Carter, Will Anderson, I'm hearing some of those guys to Philly. That's not a realistic scenario. So what we have right here, looking at the board, and then ultimately what I had to do, what I ended up doing was drafting Jahmyr Gibbs. And this was kind of a crazy one because, like I said, I was looking. No need to go receiver here. Not really defensive players that I feel were worth this spot. And yes, I understand. I could have traded back. I could have done that. But there's a high risk. Jahmyr Gibbs, his draft stock is going up. He ran the 4.36. He has it all on tape. He can also catch the ball. So if I risk trading back, I didn't want to do that because if I lose out on Jahmyr Gibbs, then I don't like the position I'm in. And like I said, this is just the first scenario. So in the first scenario, I went Jahmyr Gibbs. I thought it was a do or die because I see him and Bijan as the feature backs for year one. They come in and they become dominant out of the gate. So, and I think about some other running backs because this is a deep running back class. But when I think about the guys who are separating, that's where I see those two. Going over to my next pick, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, he just posted. Thank you, Philly. Marcus Epps, another guy. Are we going to keep him? Are we going to lose him? So I had to look at it here. I saw some defensive players, and I really thought to myself, because we also have that 94 pick, didn't really want to reach for an edge here. And I saw another interesting guy who I looked at 94. So right here I stuck. And what took me long on this pick, because I was really thinking, Tank Dell, because of what he is in the passing game. But then I thought about it, Eagles, run scheme. Zach Pascal, I think, can be that fit as that number 3 receiver because of the run. He's going to block. And I thought about Tank Dell. Yes, he can offer you something in the run game, but he's not really going to be a blocker for you. So overall, I went with Sidney Brown, safety out of Illinois, twin brother of Chase Brown, the running back. That would be interesting if y'all get both of them. But like I said, a guy who's not and I think Sidney Brown is one of the best safeties in this class. So you're getting an impact player again. And now let me talk about Sidney Brown for a minute because I think he can play in a 2-high. I think he can play in a 1-high, and I think he can play in a nickel. He can play man coverage. There's some questions about him weathering deep zones, but that's warranted. There's a lot of guys with that question. But like I said, Sidney Brown, versatile, named off all his positions, added him to this room. You may make a last effort, last push to get C.J. Gardner-Johnson, but as far as Marcus Epps, he can mix and match either position. So if you bring back Marcus Epps, we got Reed Blankenship, those type of guys, he can mix and match, and you play him where you need to play him because he's that versatile. So I had to get him right here. On to my next pick, I got an interesting guy, and this is your 3-tech. I just saw that you guys also got Brandon Graham, so that's interesting. On the edge, some depth, and this is a guy who can play maybe in the 5. He played in the 5 in college, played edge in college. But what we want on this team is we want him to be that 3. We don't know if Javon Hargrave is coming back if he has to leave, we have to bring in Carl Brooks. And I think Carl Brooks, kind of a tweener, as far as the measurements, not really sure, but I think he has the talent. A penetrating 3-tech, gonna get in the backfield against the run, can also offer you some pass rush. So I think this is a really good move, and that's what I went with right here. And this is a draft where we have to hit if we're trying to get back to the Super Bowl, because we don't have a lot of picks, especially in the high end of the draft, and that's the nature of having a Super Bowl team. You got to lose something to gain something. So now with these last 2 picks, you're going to see a kind of theme right here. But it's just short and sweet. I went with center Juice Scruggs. And that's because I'm thinking if we kick Cam Jurgens, the right guard, and we can train Juice Scruggs behind Kelsey, let him get some of those tools, then maybe he can come in and plug and play once Kelsey retires. But I think overall, you kind of want to get at least one lineman who you can train behind those guys, whether it be Lane Johnson, Jordan Mailata, somebody that's going to be behind, watch how things are done, and then if Lane Johnson gets hurt, if Jason Kelsey retires, then we plug him and play him. I think it has to be in play for one of these picks. Going over to my last pick, I got a stud who kind of fell right here, but I got Jalen Moreno Cooper. Can play in the slot, or if you just want to line him up outside and then put Devontae Smith in the slot, it's kind of giving you some options there. But I will put him in the slot in this offense. Going to compete to be wide receiver 3. Like I said, interesting to see what they do with Quez Watkins. So when free agency is over, I'm going to come back with some more mock drafts and really try to create the perfect mock draft for just about every team. But there's so much questions, and that's what brought me to these scenarios that I have. So right here we have my second scenario. Like I said, consensus. At 10, I went corner. Whether it be Christian Gonzalez or Devon Witherspoon, to me, it has to be corner. It can't be Bijan Robinson. It's not going to be Jalen Carter. He's not falling there in my eyes. And it won't be Will Anderson. And if you don't have the capital to trade up, right here at 30, we had a drop. And it got kind of interesting because I think, like I said, can play in the 5, can play in the 3. And we talk about defensive line. Javon Hargrave might be out that door. So in the last draft, I went running back early. Right here, I went defensive line early. And that may be catered to, what some people feel is best for this team. But like I said, Brian Brzee fell. And I think the Cowboys, the Lions are some teams who could be looking at Brian Brzee because he's talented, ultra athletic, upside, can bend for a guy at his size. And like I said, you could play him on the edge. You can play him on the inside. I think he would be an absolute steal and a stud in this defense. So I went with him at 30. And for my next pick, this one stayed the same in this mock draft. I went Sidney Brown again. I think Sidney Brown, Jamie Robinson, J.L. Skinner, Christopher Smith, watch the film on those guys and get to know those guys because one of the 4 I think is going to be on your team. Antonio Johnson, we can also throw him in there, but I think he's going to go higher than where you can warrant to draft a safety. So where does it get interesting? So my next pick in the 3rd round is where it got interesting. And like I said, I went running back because I think running back, you have to add somebody with Kenneth Gainwell. And I heard Leonard Fournette. I'm hearing some guys. Derrick Henry, I think that's no. I've heard Derrick Henry trades, Jalen Ramsey trades. I don't think either of those trades are realistic. So, but getting back to the point, I got Dwayne McBride right here in the 3rd round, 94. And his stats, his production, over 1,700 running yards at UAB. His production is off the charts. Can run outside, can run inside the tackles. And we talk about breakaway speed when we talk about these running backs. Bijan Robinson doesn't have breakaway speed, but he has enough. He has enough to get away in the second level of a defense, just like Bijan. So the question with him, why is he not ranked higher? He's running for all these yards. It's really the pass catching repertoire. And I don't think he can't catch, but we talk about some guys, you just want to see it. We didn't see it at UAB. He didn't get a lot of opportunities. His number wasn't called to catch the ball, and I think that's what limits him to maybe a 2-down back. Or we talk about his blocking, things like that, kind of nitpick things, but important things at the end of the day. And right here, we just get an absolute stud still, him, Gainwell. So got to be happy with that. Going over to the 2nd round, I added defensive line again. Like I said, a point of emphasis. And this was really a true nose 3, not really any outside versatility. But what we want him to do is, this is a run stopper guy. And I think you really have to be trying to bring back Sue and Linval Joseph if you're the Eagles. I mean, they're not going to be that expensive. So I think there's a world where you have to bring at least one or the two back. But right here, I went Jonah Tavai. You also got Milton Williams. But this is a guy that's going to push the point, and that's really all he's going to do. Short and sweet. Going to the next pick, I got Juice Struggs again in this mock draft. I just got him a couple picks later. Let's get into this third mock draft where we kind of shook some things up. Because realistically, and in this third mock draft, this doesn't have to be the exact order of how things go. This third mock draft, I traded back out of that 30 spot because I think 30 is such a weird spot. All the tie-in edges are going to be going. Bijan's going to be going. If you don't want to get Jahmyr Gibbs right there and you want to go defense or something like that, you can get that pick a little bit later and add because you don't have much depth mid-round picks in this draft. So I traded back 9 spots with the Carolina Panthers, and I got back their 39th pick and a mid-round pick, a third-round pick. So this is the interesting thing because, like I said, this adds us so much more versatility, so much depth in the draft. So let's talk about what I actually got. Like I said, went corner the first pick, and that's really every mock draft that I did. But in this second one, I got Tui Tuipulotu. And, before you say anything, just check out the guy. Because he can play 3-tech. He played edge at USC. But he can also kick inside. Look at his frame. Look at his physicals. And at the combine, the bend was well. The agility was well. Everything confirmed that I saw on tape, I saw at the combine, and that's what I want to see out of these prospects. Doesn't lack any athleticism. But maybe, some teams, he's not athletic enough to be their consistent every down edge. So like I said, you can kick him into that 3-tech. Or in some of your sets, when you like to run a 5-2 with 2 down and 3 inside, you can run him in like that. There's so many possibilities, so many different scenarios. I think he's a versatile player, and I think he's one of the better players. If I really had to rank him, I think he could be a first-round guy. When we're talking about a team like Kansas City, anybody who might go edge in the back end, New Orleans Saints, watch out for Tui Tuipulotu because he can sneak in right there. He has all the talent from what I've looked at, from what I've evaluated. So what did I do with the next pick? And this was an interesting one as well, but I decided to go with the running back who I felt is not Bijan and Jahmyr Gibbs, but I feel he's in that next tier of what we're talking about when we talk about running backs. Zach Charbonnet, because he has it. He has a pass catching profile. He has a running profile. He has the profile to be bell cowed, but he just doesn't have breakaway speed, and that's it. When we talk about running backs, because we talk about Bijan, he's game breaking. He can break away in the secondary. When we talk about Zach, and looking at Philly, they've kind of been longing for that power back guy. So if we get a mixture of him and Kenny, Boston Scott, if we bring him back. So I'm thinking about it like that, and he can also catch passes. This is a solid back who's going to produce in year one. And that's what I'm looking for. Not a back that really has to develop too much. Somebody who can be in contention for Rookie of the Year. And I think him, McBride, Gibbs, A-Chain, depending on what team he goes to and what scheme he's in, and obviously Robinson. I think those are the guys in that high end. Kendre Miller, we could throw him in there out of TCU. Those are the type of guys who are dogs. And, maybe you want to go running back lower. But when you're talking about running back, I think the Eagles are kind of looking for a guy who they can feature because this is a team that runs the ball. And unless you're looking to change up the scheme this year, add Jalen Hurts, dominate with the passing game, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, I think you're going to still lean on that running game like you did last year. One of the best rushing teams in the NFL. I don't see it changing too much outside of that. But I do think Jalen Hurts is going to take another step. So if that's the possibility, then we don't even have to go running back. We can go in that late third round. We could do that as well. But like I said, what I'm thinking, what I've seen with the Eagles, it's about feature running backs. And I got all the guys in all these scenarios who can be featured. Going to the next pick, I got Luke Weipler. And that's a center out of Ohio State. And don't jump out the chair. Don't go crazy. But I see some similarities to Jason Kelce. Kind of an undersized center. Doesn't have the longest arms. Smart. can pick up blitzes. You know, like I said, he's undersized a bit. So if he gets powered by one of those true nose tackles, then he may lose that battle. But he's athletic. He can pull. He can lead. And we talk about the Eagles' run game. They like to get Kelsey out in space. I just see it as being a sweet pick because Kelsey retires. Like I said, you kick Cam Jurgens the right guard, and now you got Luke Weipler right here. I mean, it's just sweet when we talk about everything about it. So I went him with that 93rd pick that I traded for. And in that 94th pick, I got Jamie Robinson. Talked about him earlier, a versatile safety. Some people are saying he's not really a true safety, but he's also not a nickel. I think he's a football player. Pretty versatile, can play different positions, and that's what you're going to need, especially in the secondary that's just really lacking talent. Avonte Maddox is solid in the nickel, but he's been hurt. And you add Jamie Robinson, not the biggest guy, and that's really the knock because of the measurables. So, but I think as far as making plays, playing football at the safety position, I think he has all of those tools, and I went him with that 94 pick. So let's go back to the 7th round. Got Tavai again. Shook it up a little bit for that 249th pick. And I got Stetson Bennett. A lot of people saying, why are we going quarterback? We got Jalen Hurts. Gardner Minshew, free agent. Stetson Bennett, one of the oldest quarterbacks when we talk about draft eligibility. He's coming in. He's not going to be startled. He's mobile, so we can keep some of the same scheme when Jalen Hurts, maybe sits out a game. We're dealing with a shoulder again, dealing with any injury, sits out a game or two. We can bring in Stetson. He has that winning pedigree. Has shown the ability to make throws, next level type throws. So I think we bring him in. He's a backup. We just continue to groom him and trim him. If he shows flashes, then maybe he'll go to another team. But as far as what we have right now, I see him being the perfect backup for this team. Talk about Dorian Thompson-Robinson. Talk about Malik Cunningham, Jaren Hall. Those guys are nice. But I think teams are looking at a little bit more potential with them. So they probably won't be there when we can take a quarterback. But right here, Stetson Bennett was in there. That's the sweet pick. Let me know what mock draft you like best out of this. Was it 1, 2? Was it 1, 2, or 3 that you would decide to go with in this video? Let me know below in the comments. These are some good talking points. Like I said, we're going to get back to this after free agency, but this is the last draft video I'm doing until the conclusion of free agency because I just want to see a little bit more things to where I can make a more calculated, analyzed draft. So thank you for watching this video. That's going to do it for today. Don't forget to subscribe, and we out.